So I'm Jen Jones. If you haven't had an opportunity to hear who I am or what I do, I'm going to just continue through our series to just introduce myself. My name is Jen Jones, and I'm the founder and intropreneur at Connect and Elevate. I help and guide introvert women entrepreneurs through a journey to find their aligned and introvert self. We also take a look at your energy awareness, because if you are an introvert, you know that your energy is prime and you really need to take really good care of it, or you end up in burnout. So we talk about energy awareness. We also talk about cultivating relationships, and that is the topic for today. And then lastly, we're going to talk about repeat and referral business and how to put it all together, because I'm a mom and a lot of my clients are mom entrepreneurs. And so we'll have a chance and opportunity to talk to you a little bit about how you balance it all, especially as an introvert. For me, I just feel like I need so much me time, self-care, whatever you call it for yourself. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you do for yourself as the series continues. So today I am excited because we are going to chat more about cultivating joyful relationships by loving on your people. And when I say loving on your people, I truly mean the people in your circle and maybe the people who are going to actually come into your circle. So that's just a little overview of what we're going to be talking about and building community and things like that. I have really, my motto is go deep, not wide, for a very good reason. So going deep, not wide is really about the quality of the people that you surround yourself with versus the quantity of people. Granted, there are very successful entrepreneurs who believe that quantity is the way to go to build your business. And that's great. I think that if you found your niche in, getting as many people as possible, then, more power to you. For myself, I have found over the years and in my real estate business that I've been doing for just about 18 years now, that the relationships with your people, and it's always shifting and changing, but you have your core people that you really build relationships with. I have some people on my list that have been on for at least a decade. And it's not that I have to talk to them every day. It's not that, it's not that intimate of a practice that you need to really think about. It's more about keeping them in mind. It's about bringing people together, which I'll sort of get into in a little bit. But let's go back. I got ahead of myself and talk about creating, if you don't already have a circle, creating a circle and growing it. So maybe you do already have a circle of people, but you're just not sure how to grow it. Maybe it's bringing you as much business as you want at the moment. So just listen in and, think about the people that are in your circle now. Or, if you're just starting out, think about people who are in your personal circle who, I don't necessarily think that those are two different things, because I blend my business and my life together. So some of my friends are also my business circle, also, partners. So it definitely, what I'll call it, gets messy if you're someone who needs to stay in those boxes. So this is for someone who really just enjoys being around people and cultivating those deep relationships from a place of joy. So think about someone in your life right now that's in your circle or in your life, that think about the characteristics of them. So they may be kind, compassionate, funny, supportive. Think about the characteristics of that person. And, I would say, let me know. But so in your mind, pick one or two things and really just keep that in the forefront as we continue through some of these questions. Because as we meet new people, it becomes more and more apparent that we may, right off the bat, we may be like, this is not a person I want to be around ever again. But think about people that you have met where you're like, oh my gosh, you're my soul sister, or oh my, like, we need to talk more. So there's always those two extremes. But then there's, well, I need to get to know the person. So how do I get to know this person if I'm not sure? Like, maybe I do want them. Maybe they're not going to be the right fit for my circle. So as we move through, I'm going to just use like kind and compassionate as, because those are my two. It's something that I find in myself. So typically when we think about these people, they usually mirror us in some way. So kind and compassionate, supportive is another one. That's where we want to keep that. That's kind of our filter as we meet new people and get to know them. So you're probably thinking, well, how do I get to know people better? And so I'm not going to get into the whole networking or doing one-on-ones. That's a different part of the series. But what I'm going to do is talk about when you are meeting with people, and whether that's in a group or one-on-one, what kind of questions can you ask? Because I think as an introvert, and maybe others, sometimes it's not apparent. We might be like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Like, give you an opportunity to have some of these questions in your pocket. And one of them is, tell me a little bit about yourself. If you want to even say, tell me a little bit about your business, if that feels more comfortable. When we talk about ourselves, it's very short, sweet, if we even have to talk about ourselves as introverts. But giving people the opportunity to tell them a little bit about themselves really might open up a conversation about, for example, maybe you have something in common. Maybe that person likes to paint as a hobby and she does it often. Maybe she loves yoga and she's looking for a partner to come and do that with, if you're obviously in person. Something that I encourage people to do is read. So when you're reading and you have found like a couple books, it's always great to be like, hey, I read this book and this was like my favorite part of it. I would definitely recommend it for you to take a look at. So always have like a couple books, maybe it is the one that you're reading. Like right now, I'm reading Will Smith's Will. And I've been recommending it to everyone because it's really resonating with me. There's some parts in there that I'm like, oh my gosh, like you need to read this book. And so just be present in your own life and share yourself with the other person will really help you sort of filter through, narrow down, does this person belong in your circle? I can also offer some additional questions if you're like, Jen, hey, you know what? That sounds great. Send some more along. I can definitely, add that, and it will also be in the show notes. Lastly, as we're wrapping up this portion, which is how do you bring people into your circle? I have a beautiful connection journal called the Intropreneur Connection Journal that I will definitely post so that you can grab your free copy of it. And really what it is helping you, especially if you're on a phone call or Zoom, it gives you an opportunity to think about, because sometimes even myself, when I created the journal, sometimes I forget those important questions. Like I really always want to get people's mailing addresses. And sometimes I forget that I need to grab people's mailing address. And because I love to send stuff, which we'll get into in the next section here, is what brings you joy in your relationships. And so with that said, this connection journal really encompasses some great questions. It's like, where did you meet this person? What do you want to ask them? Do you have anything in common? And then at the end, it asks, how can you support that person? Who can you refer that person, and vice versa? So it really is an all-encompassing, really great tool to use while you're connecting with people. When you're in person in a bigger group, it's not necessarily something that I whip out and start writing notes on. But I have taken some notes on my phone, and that gives you the opportunity to remember, because geez, recently remembering things has been a challenge for me. So this is really a tool for you to keep things organized. You may have a CRM system that you're going to maybe transcribe that information into that. Maybe you have an admin that can do that for you. It is not electronic, so it's not something that you can just sort of copy and paste. It is a PDF, so you could fill it in that way. Enough about that. Although it's a great tool, we got to keep moving on so we can get all the points in that I wanted to talk about today. And the next one is, what brings you joy in your relationships? So think about a time that you really enjoy connecting with someone. And this could be, again, personal, it could be professional. So think about that. And I want you to ask yourself some questions about the experience. What were some of the characteristics of that person, which we've already talked about, so they could be similar? How did you feel when you were with that person or on Zoom? So how did you feel about that person? And then lastly, really think about, what about that person stood out to you? What about them was like, okay, this is someone I want in my circle. I want to be connecting with on, a consistent, ongoing basis. So what were those things that you felt? So for instance, I met this person, we met online, but we lived 2 towns over. We still live 2 towns over. And I said, well, let's go grab coffee. And so we met, and I connected with her online, which is why I reached out to say, hey, let's go grab coffee. But it was actually that she has teens and I have teens. And if you have teens, you know that there's a lot to talk about and a lot to connect with. And so that's a great example. And she's very compassionate. It's just a great example of how when you know that that person belongs in your circle and you want to stay in contact with them. So think about that. And we always want to have joy in our life. And, sometimes I say it and I'm not sure if I really mean it. So in many cases, I have overused the word. And so I really want to step back for just a minute and say, what do you enjoy doing? What do you enjoy doing with other people? I love to go get coffee. I love paint nights. Upcoming in the next month or two is going to be cookie decorating with somebody or a group of people, because although I'm gluten-free, maybe I can get some gluten-free cookies, but really just enjoying yourself and having fun. One other thing is, and this is totally an aside, but felt compelled to actually say it, is that over school vacation, my family and I went to go bowl. So we did that. And then we went and did laser tag. And I tell you, if that isn't something that brings people together, and, whatever your thoughts are on guns and things like that, this was a pretty amazing experience for my family, and everyone enjoyed themselves. So think about that feeling of joy and enjoying yourself and bring that into your business. So that was just a little aside that I just wanted to really hone in on. So if you're up for laser tag, you live close to me, let me know, because I totally come and do that with you. All right. So lastly, this is the last point, and then we'll wrap up, is reimagining follow-up. And you're probably thinking, well, I don't really like to do follow-up, or I'm not consistent with follow-up. And so what I'd like you to do is take what we just talked about the joy of those relationships and joy in your life and business. and think about, well, who would you follow up with? And you might say, oh, Jen, of course, I follow up with everyone that I meet, everyone that I talk to. I follow up even people who sign up on my email list. So think about who you actually want to follow up with. And of course, I'll say the who is the people in your circle. You want to follow up with them. How often do you follow up with them? Well, that's really up to you and your business plan. And again, what brings you joy? For me, bringing people together in groups is just super fulfilling. And that's what I do for the majority of things, is bring people together. I do also like, the one-on-ones, but so how do you follow up? What do you do to follow up? It could be an email. It could be a personal note. It could be gifts. So I love to give gifts. I wish I had the whole package, but I will just go ahead and bring this up. So I love sending out things that, so this is the Hope Stone, and I just have a little bag that actually it goes in. That's what I thought you were going for. So getting that, so going back to the Intropreneur connection journal, that is where I make sure that I get the address, because that's usually my downfall. And I'm messaging or texting and like, can you send me your mailing address? And don't be afraid to just ask. The worst thing they can say is no. And then they don't get your awesome gift that you want to send in the mail, or that personal, handwritten note. So as we look at follow-up, I really want you to plan it out. So I didn't get into it too much about go deep, not wide, but I'll bring it up real quick, is the bullseye. So 3 layers of this bullseye. You have like the master connectors in the center, and then it goes out. And these master connectors are your ride or die. I've never used that description before, but they are your ride or die. They are always there to support you. And you want to spend as much time with them as possible. One, because they love you and you love them. And so what do you want to do for those people? Because I think those are your special people that, I don't want to say deserve, for the lack of a better word, I'll use deserve, but to celebrate them and say, I really appreciate everything that you do. And here's my appreciation for that. So when you plan that out, I usually do an event every quarter, at least one event every quarter. I also do something that is, the mailing, which I usually call love mail. So I send love mail. I haven't been writing personal notes, but I feel like I go in these phases of like, it doesn't really bring me that much joy. But I tell you, I love getting them. So as I'm talking, I'm like, maybe 2022, I should start talking about that again. And so, excuse me. I want you to also remember sort of the logistics of planning it and logging it. So I am not very good with the admin side of my business. So that's why I hire and delegate out. But in times where I'm like, I'll just do it myself, and I will send stuff out and not log it and go, who did I send stuff out to? So I just challenge you that if that sounds like you, I would just remind yourself that you need to remember what you send people, so you can then continue the follow-up and say, hey, I hope you got the package in the mail. I hope you got the note in the mail, because just sending it is great. And usually I actually get messages back very quickly once they receive it. And that's the opportunity to keep the conversation going. And lastly, as we sort of work on wrapping up, but reimagining follow-up is all about consistency. So here we are, we're going to go into like sort of the planning. So being consistent. Once you have the plan of when you want to follow up with people and love on them, I also want you to think about being consistent with it and logging it and being consistent with it and logging it. Consistency is very difficult. And so you may have to put it on your calendar, time block, priority block, whatever works for you. Make sure that you're making time for that. And I'll just share a quick story about one of my clients who we were talking about follow-up. It really hit her that she wasn't doing the follow-up that she really wanted to do. Part of it was fear that, people are going to think I'm bugging them. But when she really committed to the follow-up, it was follow-up Friday. Every Friday morning, she would follow up with whether it was someone that did a discovery call, someone who had a consultation. So she really followed up with the people that she was in contact with. And that was also her time that she wrote her blog, wrote some emails, and did her newsletter. So although now I'm saying newsletter, but it might have just been her blog. And she was consistent with it every Friday. And I tell you, within a week or two, she was getting people responding back to her. And so that's obviously great affirmation that what you're doing is working, but what you're doing is staying in contact with people. And that's what it's all about. Having joyful relationships is about enjoying the relationship. And when you can spread more joy with whatever it is, gifts, notes, maybe it's just a phone call, depending on your business and depending on, if you have their phone number. Maybe it's a quick, voice message on Facebook Messenger or Voxer. A lot of people are working through Voxer these days. So, just make it personal for you, and I'll say one last thing, and that is, what do you like to be loved on? How do you want to be loved on? And what I would do is write it out. I don't know, go brain dump about it. And I tell you the answers, because if you're questioning, well, what is that? I don't know, Jen. That right there will show exactly what you need to do in your business, and it will grow relationships, nurture relationships, and really overall be fulfilling in your life and business. So as we bring forth everything all together, this is part of the book that I just finished writing. It's in the final stages, finally, and it's called Intropreneur. And I want to extend to all of you. I have a wait list if you want to be notified when we are dropping Intropreneur. I will definitely be sending out emails to everyone who's on that wait list. And you will also have the opportunity to download the Introvert's Energy Toolkit, which I know we have talked about probably on a couple occasions. This tool is a game changer. It is something that I am continuing to update and change as I see clients and myself feel into the energy awareness, especially as we move into the new year. So I will have that link to all of you in the show notes, and those who are live, I will also drop that link there. In addition, it's my 44th birthday at the end of the month. We're in 2022, and I'm excited to see what this year has to offer. And whatever you would like to do in 2022, please include nurturing joyful relationships by loving on your people. And so thanks for listening. If you have any questions, I can definitely stick around and answer them. If you are looking for those questions, I can also get those to you too. So thank you for watching Ladies Power Lunch or listening to Ladies Power Lunch, and we will be back next week.